How do I look? Still ridiculous? Yeah.
Your brightness is a little high, I think. Kind of washed out. Better, though. Definitely. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That works. That works.
That's all I got.
You need flesh tones.
I know.
Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with three little words: we the people. We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car, and we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. We, the people, are free. This belief has been the underlying basis for everything I've tried to do these past 8 years. But back in the 1960s, when I began, it seemed to me that we'd begun reversing the order of things. That through more and more rules and regulations and confiscatory taxes, the government was taking more of our money, more of our options, and more of our freedom. I went into politics in part to put up my hand and say, stop. I was a citizen politician, and it seemed the right thing for a citizen to do. I think we have stopped a lot of what needed stopping. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. There's a clear cause and effect here that is as neat and predictable as a law of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VCCLive. I am Kevin Skipper with Vaping Convention Circuit, with my co-host Jay DeLuco and Nick Green. Matt could not be with us tonight. He has a family obligation, so he won't be joining us live, but hopefully he'll be back with us next week. I wanted to play that Ronald Reagan clip at the beginning. You know, some of you may or may not be Reagan fans, may not even be Republican, but I don't think no matter what you are as an American, if you listen to that, you can't agree with the sentiment of his words. So, with that said, we're going to get, we have a lot to cover tonight. We're going to talk about the Surgeon General's report on electronic cigarettes for most of the program, and then Nick's going to give us a wrap-up of ECC and a recap on how that event went this past weekend.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome you all out tonight. We appreciate you joining us live. I don't know how many we're going to end up having with us live tonight, but if you are watching, would you please remember to smash that like button while you're watching and also share the live link right now so that if anyone else on your social medias wants to join us, they can. Before we get into it, Jay, how's things? What's been up this past week with you?
Things are good. It's so strange, but now that I have 2 full-time jobs, I'm incredibly relaxed. I feel good. I get a lot done every week. Just a happy-go-lucky guy.
Good.
That's all.
Crazy.
Nick, how are you?
That's crazy.
You can give us the I know you've been out at ECC and busy and stuff, but anything going on interesting you want to tell us about?
No. I mean, things are good. Things are busy. It's always kind of a pain in the ass to take 5 days to go to an event and then you come home to the most work you've ever had in your life. And so I've just been trying to really play catch up. The vlog went up today and I managed to somehow film that. But I'm just trying to play catch up, really, and it's just busy. We're all busy. Everybody's busy. It's busy all around. And then, of course, what we're going to be talking about, the Surgeon General news, has made me angry all day.
Good. This will give you a chance to let it out.
It comes into one of those points where you go into, like, full advocacy mode, You're like, I was gonna post a picture of a mod today, but I'm too fucking pissed. You know.
We've had a couple of comments over the past few. I think you must. Do you look at chat on your phone during the show to reply to chat? Some people are saying that you're.
Yeah, I have the chat on my monitor.
Oh, okay.
I can see it.
Some people are saying, "Tell Greg to get off his phone." I think he's replying to chat. I don't know.
Sometimes I'm replying to emails. Sometimes I'm replying to texts. You know,
I'm actually in the VCCLive chat room right now. That's what I'm.
Is VCCLive live right now? Someone mentioned that.
I don't know. Actually, no. The Genie K show starts at 9 tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, we might run a few minutes over, but if you guys are dying to go check that out, you can bounce whenever. Look at the quote at the top. I wanted to, before we even begin to delve into this, I want this to be on everyone's mind throughout the night. The mission of the Department of Health and Human Services is to enhance and protect the health and well-being of all Americans. Sylvia Burwell, Secretary, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Not just minors.
Keep that in mind throughout the context of everything we discussed tonight as it relates to the Surgeon General's report on electronic cigarettes. We're going to hop over for a minute and I'll show you something. Well, we're going to be on the right screen, the right monitor a lot tonight. So this is something I saw today from the American Vaping Association, Greg Conley. He put this out, and again, links to everything that you see here will be in the replay. And if you're listening to this on SoundCloud or whatever, or Smoke Free Radio after the fact, jump over to the YouTube, youtube.com/vapingcc, and you'll be able to find all these links on the video, episode 23. So Greg Conley put out a press release, and he says, report draws criticism for making reckless conclusions. Washington, D.C. Today, the American Vaping Association and others reacted to the U.S. Surgeon General's release of e-cigarette use among youth and young adults, a report of the Surgeon General. And Greg says that Greg is the president of the AVA. This is just another politically motivated attack on an industry that is helping people quit smoking. Discussion of the risk and benefits of vapor products should center on the science, not moralizing platitudes. The Surgeon General has failed the American people by releasing such a biased report. It is unfortunate that on President Obama's way out of office, he's allowing his Surgeon General to turn a once esteemed office into nothing more than a propaganda machine. It's time to drain the swamp from the FDA to HHS to the dishonorable Surgeon General. Pretty strong words from Greg Conley. And I think he's absolutely right. Once some of you guys see some of the stuff that we're going to be presenting, I think you'll agree with Greg. This is actually a picture of Greg giving the RCP to the Surgeon General in June of 2016. Obviously,
I remember that.
A lot of good that did.
Yep.
So let's bump over one more. If you click on that link there that was in the AVA press release, it'll take you over to the Surgeon General's website. Oh, first I wanted to, before we go over that, before we go over the report, I don't know if you guys are aware of the history of the Surgeon General, or what they even do. So just to give some of our viewers and us a refresher on what the Surgeon General's office does and who the Surgeon General is, I pulled up this, and this is about the office of the Surgeon General. As the nation's doctor, the Surgeon General provides Americans with the best scientific information available on how to improve their health and reduce the risk of illness and injury. Again, now if you can keep that in mind also throughout the broadcast tonight, and if you're listening on the replay, just try to keep in mind what it is what their goal is and what they're actually doing with this report. So I know I'm talking a lot at the beginning, but I want to get us into a point where we can all discuss it. So I'm going to bump back over again to the right monitor, and we'll go to the actual website. This is the website, and we'll have a link again in the description, but this is the website that contains the information on the report that we're talking about tonight. It's got an executive summary. You can click full report, video, and fact sheet. These things, you can just come to this link and download these if you want to. The actual report itself is about 298 pages long. That's with citations and stuff. So obviously I have not had a chance to read the entire thing, but we'll cover some of the details of it. So the executive summary, full report, video.
It looks annoyingly like the Still Blowing Smoke campaign, doesn't it?
It does. Yep.
Yeah.
They have a video that they put out, which we're going to watch in just a second, and then a fact sheet that we're going to look at. So this is the fact sheet. Let's go to the video first. I'm going to move these around really quickly here. We'll make that full screen, and we'll hit play.
Some say e-cigarettes aren't dangerous,
But science shows nicotine can harm teens' developing brains.
no matter how they're exposed.
Let's do an experiment to find out.
Here's a teen who won't be using e-cigarettes.
Now we need one willing to risk their brain development.
Anyone care to volunteer your kid?
Anyone?
I'm Dr. Vivek Murthy, U.S. Surgeon General. Your kids are not an experiment. Protect them from e-cigarettes.
All right, so that's the video. Let's start with that. What do you guys? What's your first impressions? Have you seen it yet? What do you think?
I have not seen it, and I could not hear it, so I'm out.
Oh, you couldn't hear it. Okay. They're basically saying,
I'm sure it was annoying.
let me give you the gist of it. They're saying here we need to do a study on your teenager's brain to see the effects of nicotine. Here's one that won't be using electronic cigarettes, and then there's an empty chair that says, here's one. Now we need a volunteer. Anyone willing to volunteer your child, your teen? That's the gist of it. And
But you know what? It's 18 plus across the country now. So is this not irrelevant?
And it was in 46 jurisdictions prior to the FDA deeming regulations. So it wasn't like they accomplished a whole lot. Nick, were you able to hear the audio of that video or not?
And now we can't hear Nick's
You're
audio.
Muted myself. I'm trying to do my own tech support here. I have a different webcam that I'm trying to subtly plug in so I don't look like a washed out nightmare, but I might just give up in a second.
Were you able to hear the audio of that video?
I wasn't able to hear it now.
Okay. So yeah, anyone in the comments have any, if you're running on Zoom, make sure to click the share sound button. I'm running on XSplit Broadcaster, and usually it shares the audio. Were you guys able to hear the audio live?
Yeah, I'm sure they were. I mean, this is the same problem we have every week. So
Yeah, okay. Well, were you able to hear the Reagan video?
no,
I couldn't hear that either.
but I watched that. I watched that before the show, though.
Wow, okay. Sorry, guys. Not sure what happened there, but hopefully everyone else was able to hear that. So yeah, they have a propaganda video that accompanies the propaganda report that came out, and it's just ridiculous that they would stoop to such a level, a federal government agency. But hey, whoa, we got Nick.
So much better.
Yeah, there you are.
I look
Can't see
normal.
half your face though, but you can work on that while we're talking about the fact sheets. There we go.
So much better. Yes.
So, we'll go back over here to the right
Sorry.
screen, and we have this is the fact sheet that accompanied the report. E-cigarette use among youth and young adults, a report for the Surgeon General, and it goes on to list several quote-unquote facts and some bullet points underlying these facts. Again, I'm not going to read all these to you. I'll post a link, but I just think it's incredible the level of detail they went to on this document to discredit electronic cigarettes. And where is the actual Surgeon General's report? Okay, I have that as a... Okay, so this is the actual document we're talking about. And as you can see, 298 pages long. I'm just going to go through. I bookmarked a few things on here. Let's see if I can find them. Sorry, guys, bear with me. It's a long document. And this is the quote that I took from Sylvia Burwell, who is the Secretary of the U.S. Health and Human Services. That's at the top of our show tonight. This is directly from the document, and I'm going to go down to, and this is a statement by the U.S. Surgeon General that I thought was interesting. Preventing tobacco use in any form among youth and young adults is critical to ending the tobacco epidemic in the United States. I think that if the federal government were that interested in ending the tobacco epidemic in the United States, wouldn't they ban cigarettes? Is that too simple?
Sure, but we're dancing dangerously close to libertarian territory at that point as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to skate that against. Yeah, I mean, if that's their stated goal, but when has their stated goal ever actually met with, pragmatic reality? It never has. Like, what they say and what they do are very, very different things, and that comes from both the left and the right. So
Absolutely. But I would think that if the government was that interested in ending the tobacco epidemic, they would just ban smoking, ban tobacco. I don't think they give two shits about the lives of Americans and public health.
Don't.
So,
It's all about political and economic power. That's all it's ever been about.
right. So we're gonna skip down. Nick, do you have any comments on that? What do you think?
It just drives me nuts, man. It's like, yeah, I mean, ban tobacco, but in order to reduce harm across the board, you would just have to be dead. You know what I mean? Like, you would have to ban everything. You ban sugar and dairy and breathing because of pollution and driving and water. And I mean, it's a really slippery freaking slope.
They're not going to be happy until we're all living in a padded room eating food pellets 3 times a day.
Yeah, exactly. Nutrition
Seriously.
pellets. It makes no sense.
Well, and so I wanted everyone to kind of just see that and see my thoughts on the stupidity of the statement itself, combating electronic cigarettes to stop the youth from gaining access to them and getting addicted to nicotine and then therefore transitioning into combustible tobacco at some point in their life. And that it's just a retarded argument. I cannot believe this guy is as smart as he is, which I did read the biography on. I can't remember what his name is now, but the current Surgeon General, and it's ridiculous how smart some people can be, but not see the common sense stuff right in front of their face. It just boggles my mind, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of even the concept of banning tobacco. I think that people should be allowed to put in their body what they want to put in their body, so long as the company selling it is being honest. Period, across the board. And I feel that way about pretty much everything. But that philosophy is never even touched upon in today's government.
Right. So I just touched briefly on the fact that this report is aimed at the youth and young adults. And that's why the title of our broadcast tonight is Save Teens, Let Adults Die, says the U.S. Surgeon General to America. I'm going to bump over to the right one more time. And this is a quote that I found 24 pages into the document. Evidence for this report was gathered from studies that included one or more of 3 age groups. We define these age groups to be young adolescents 11 to 13, adolescents 14 to 17, and young adults 18 to 24. Some studies refer to the younger groups or more generally as youth. Despite listen to this coming up. This next half a paragraph blows my fucking mind. Some studies despite important issues related to e-cigarette use in adult populations, clinical and otherwise, e.g. their potential for use in conventional smoking cessation, that literature will generally not be included in this report unless it also discusses youth and young adults. What they just said there was fuck everybody who's not a youth or young adult who's addicted to nicotine and combustible tobacco. We don't give a shit about you, and we're not going to include the literature, even though the literature, and it has Farsalinos and Peloso quoted, and Frank, etc., Grana et al., has those quoted. So obviously they're saying, okay, there may be evidence out there amongst the adult smoking population, but we're not going to include it because they didn't mention the youth population in their studies.
What they're doing, and it's a common tactic, is what's it called? They are defining the debate. So they're trying to change the debate from whether or not it's tobacco harm reduction, trying to frame it as a debate as to whether or not youth should be vaping. And of course, they're going to leave out the entire tobacco harm reduction equation in that argument. Wouldn't we rather see our youth vaping than smoking?
Yes.
I think so.
Easily, yes.
I think so.
I'd rather see anybody who uses combustible tobacco use an electronic cigarette or vapor device with or without nicotine instead of combustible tobacco.
Yeah, and again, not to be a dick, but if they're prone to dipping, if they're in the South, then they should be turned on to snooze.
Always got to get on the snooze train, Jay.
Tobacco harm reduction is tobacco harm reduction. If they're vaping or using snus and they're proven to be
Yeah.
much, much, much less harmful than combustible tobacco, why not? I mean,
Amen.
again, it's just, let me go back over here. There was only one more point that I had from the report. And yeah, I know it's long, but it's a long report, and you guys can surely take your time to read it if you want to. This report focuses on research conducted among youth and young adults because of the implications of e-cigarette use in this population, particularly the potential for future public health problems. Again, just wanted to reiterate and show you guys again the title of our show tonight. I mean, the quote on our show tonight, and I'll say this just after I read that from their own report. The mission of the Department of Health and Human Services is to enhance and protect the health and well-being of all Americans. All Americans. So let's take a few minutes and see if there are any questions or comments in the chat, or what you guys have to say about why the U.S. Surgeon General decided to focus on the youth population and basically say the rest of you smoking population who are over the age of 25, sorry about your luck. We're not going to include you in our all Americans.
Scott says, save the children. We need them for war.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's dark. All right. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Good Lord. It's because it's low hanging fruit. It's easy. I mean,
Yeah, save the children.
Save the children. Instinctually, even myself, who I don't have any kids, of course, instinctually, I want to protect children, maybe even at the cost of your own well-being. So when you read something like that and you go, yeah, we do need to protect I'm old and I'm done, but they're the new generation. They're going to lead America into the, whatever. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy. It's so easy to play to people's, instinctual response to want to protect children. Of course we want to protect children. Of course we do. There's no one out there. Yeah, I mean, the overwhelming majority of Americans do want to protect children. So it's easy to target that feeling.
Yeah, but first of all, there's already policies in place to prevent sales of youth to minors. There have been policies in place to prevent sales of use of combustible tobacco to minors for decades. And how has that worked out?
Right. But see, that's the problem where, the politician's only tool is a hammer. So in their eyes, every problem is a nail. Legislators have nothing to do with enforcement. So, if there's a problem on the enforcement side, really the only solution to that is to increase enforcement. But legislators typically don't have direct control over that. So what legislators want to do is they want to create more laws to make more people doing illegal things. If all of a sudden enforcement actually worked, if there was a good enforcement wing checking all these shops, making sure they were only selling to 18 plus, all that stuff, all this stuff would go away. But that's not what legislators see. Legislators see a problem and they want to create more laws. That's it. And those laws inevitably infringe on adults' lives.
Well, unfortunately, this person is not an elected official, but his reach is broad, or the person who
Doesn't
sits in that office reach is broad.
He's executive branch, though.
Right.
I mean, he's
and someone
he's
just
part of
said
that.
soon we'll have another Surgeon General. They're appointed to 4-year terms, and his term doesn't end until the end of next year, by the way. So
that was the other thing I wanted to talk about, was that I think a lot of what we're seeing here are just kind of the death throes.
Yep, me too.
They want to get their last digs in before they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the executive branch works as far as, the Surgeon General's office, but I would think that, given the right circumstances, he could be gone next month.
Yeah, I want to show you guys really quickly here. Again, he's not an elected official. He is appointed and confirmed. He's appointed and confirmed by the Senate. He or she, whoever's in the Surgeon General's office. But look at the reach of this report and what it has done to the perception of vaping in just the past 24 hours. So go over to the right monitor, you go on Google, you type U.S. Surgeon General e-cigarettes, hit enter, you get this list, and if you view all, it goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
What does it say? Use of e-cigarettes by young people is a major concern. U.S. Surgeon General warns young people using e-cigarette. As more teens vape, Surgeon General sounds alarm. U.S. Surgeon General says e-cigarettes are a major public health concern, especially for young people. Your kids are not an experiment, Surgeon General says. No vaping for young people. On and on and on and on and on. And this is what we are up against in the vaping industry.
I'm sorry, but our kids are not an experiment, except when it comes to Adderall, Ritalin.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I wanted to really quickly make the point of, holy shit. It's just like the FDA deeming that's pretty accurate though, but FDA deeming regulations had on the vaping industry and the mindset of the vaping industry just by being released. We talked about this before on here, but look how the mentality has shifted from a positive growth approach to a negative downsizing approach just by releasing the FDA deeming regulations. What impact do you think this is going to have on the American people's right or wrong view of electronic cigarettes as it relates to a safer alternative to combustible tobacco?
I honestly,
it was on a ton of local news programs too. I saw Andrew Osborne from New York. But
every 2 or 3 months, we get an influx of shit like this.
Yeah, but not from the U.S. Surgeon General.
Don't care. I think at least 50% of the general public has a severe mistrust of everything federal government, especially in the executive branch and especially in the alphabet agencies, which this jamoke I count as part of. They're gonna let it roll right off their back. They're not gonna. It's not gonna sway them one way or the other.
I don't think so. I think it will, and I think that even if subconsciously you see a news story, hear it on in the background, you're gonna absorb that information into your brain. And if someone asks you later, if they do a poll or something, what do you think about electronic cigarettes? Are they safer or worse for you than combustible tobacco or smoking cigarettes? People are, whether or not you know it, getting this information from somewhere,
but
seeing
it can't get any worse than it already is as far as that statistic. It can't.
It can. We've declined for sure over the past couple of years, but it can certainly go down from there. And when you lose public support for something to the level of what I think that this could damage. But
there's a good amount of the population that will literally, with this administration in particular, and I'm not getting all left versus right wing here. There's a significant amount of the population right now that will literally just disagree with anything that this administration has to say right now. Period. Mm-hmm. Just there's so much distrust right now in the federal government. I don't see how it can get much worse. It's almost a 50-50 split right now. I don't see how it can get any worse than that.
What do you think?
Especially because there has been a pretty strong backlash on this report just in the one day since it's been released.
Yeah, but did you see all those news articles? None of them was a backlash. All of them were emphasizing the words of the Surgeon General. All of them were. And I've watched a couple of
not the ones
news
that
reports.
I saw. Not the ones that I saw. I mean, it was
Let's
a
go back
pure
over
left.
real quick. Anything on here you see that's positive out of this?
I don't know. I can't read that.
E-cigarettes are a threat to public health, especially young people. Surgeon General urges crackdown on teen e-cig use.
But you're googling
just what happened in the last 24 hours. That's all I wanted. Results for the last 24 hours on this report specifically. And these are all the news. These are all the news agencies that have picked up that report and are running with it.
Yeah. Did you go to Fox News? Did you go to Reason.com?
I actually have a Reason.com report coming up here soon.
Yeah,
we're going to talk
about.
Jacob
Solom did a brilliant piece on.
What do most people do when they're searching for news nowadays? They're either going to watch their local news, maybe and hear it on in the background ambient noise, or they're going to search Google. What is this about the US
if they're looking for a specific story? Well, most people don't look for specific stories, but if it comes up on their local news, fine, they'll probably watch it. But otherwise, they're just going to go by what shows up on their Facebook feed. That's it.
What do you think?
Nobody's going to search.
You think it's going to have an impact
for
on the public image
and,
of e-cigarettes and vaping?
I'm inclined to agree with Jay on this. I know that's shocking. # Team Libertarian. But yeah, I think there's a lot of distrust in the government in general. And I think my feeling is it's getting to a point where there's so much like back and forth, like, oh, advocates are saying this, well, the government's saying this, and other people are saying this, and other people are saying this, and there's so much like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with youth and vaping and adults and vaping and tobacco and harm reduction. I think it's coming to a point where people are going to go, I don't care anymore. Just shut up.
Mhm.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think the public is going to go, I don't care anymore. Just stop talking about it.
Just kind of like what happened with marijuana. Over
Yeah,
the last few
exactly.
years.
Well, I mean, that took decades.
People are just like, you
decades,
were
to be fair.
obviously lying all these years. You're obviously
Right.
lying. So just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so
Stop
just
it.
shut
Stop
up.
it. You're embarrassing yourself.
Yes. I think that's where it's going. I think that's the road it's headed down. And I mean, my mom is really super supportive of me. She doesn't necessarily, she's not necessarily in love with vaping, but she supports what I do, and she's glad I don't smoke, and she's proud of, accomplishments in YouTube and companies like that. But ultimately, she doesn't care.
Yeah, but it took a while to get there. Anyway, I think that it's ridiculous that they have such an outreach for their propaganda and bullshit. And I've seen a couple people saying, where's our... Again, I've been saying this for a while. We don't have really any major outlet. Greg Conley does his thing, and he puts out a press release for immediate pickup. But I would venture to say that we don't have anything that comes close to the propaganda machine that the Office of the Secretary General can generate. And that's to our detriment.
Yeah, and a lot of people, the public in general, are not only distrusting of the government, but they're distrusting of public mainstream news media. Mm-hmm. They see stuff they see stuff on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, and they instantly think, oh, well, that's probably a bunch of horse shit. Sorry.
What's their angle? I mean,
what's their
angle?
People are
more and more, they're getting to a point now, because social media made us really stupid for such a long time.
Yeah,
now it's kind of come full circle where enough people on social media are starting to critically analyze things and challenge others to do the same. And you're getting that kind of backlash now. It's completely come full circle, and it's kind of, it's a good thing to see. It's heartwarming.
Yeah, and it's really easy via social media to put the pressure on people. I was tweeting at the Surgeon General today. I tweeted at him and said, at Surgeon General, didn't Greg Conley give you a copy of the Royal College of Physicians report? Like,
right.
Isn't that a thing? It's really easy to tweet or be on social media and contact them directly. And if not just me is doing it, if, thousands of vapors are doing it, it puts the pressure on him.
Yeah, we have to also, too, and thank God, again, that we're changing administrations. Anyone who's watching this can probably guess that I'm not an Obama supporter. But you have to look at the picks that this man has had for some of the offices. And I'm not saying that this gentleman who is Surgeon General is not qualified. Yes, I know he's very smart, went to Harvard, went to Yale. He's my age. He's my and Nick's age. He was born July 10th, 1977.
He's younger than me.
When I have, and I'm not saying that age is necessarily a thing that should hold anyone back from anything they want to do in life. But when I think of the U.S. Surgeon General, I want to think of somebody who has been involved in medicine for decades.
C. Everett Koop.
Who has decades worth of experience to draw upon when they're making decisions. This gentleman has probably been out of, I almost said law school, medical school for 10 years, maybe, after residency and everything.
Yes.
How does that give you enough time in your life to gather?
It doesn't.
Life is not just about education. It's about wisdom as well. And it takes a long time to gain the wisdom necessary to, I think, be able to approach some jobs. And I think that this is one of them as our nation's doctor. So I'm certainly glad that.
And on top of that, he's going to be looking for a career after he's done. So he's going to be looking to, do favors for his friends and punish his enemies, the entire time he's in that office, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some better picks and appointments coming up in the next administration, and we can do some actual good and do some actual science and change the focus of this red herring that they have with save the children, save the children, save the children. I think Save the Children is great. I think they're covered. They're good government. Let's move on. Let's save the 40 million people who are going to die from combustible tobacco if they don't quit smoking. How about that? You think that might be a decent goal? We're hearing that all Americans thing, aren't we? I'm an American. You an American? You an American? Everyone
yeah. But the more of us survive through retirement, the more they have to pay out for Social Security.
I'll never see Social Security a day in my life. I promise you that. All right, we're going to go over, and there was a couple of good articles, and we'll just cover those quickly and talk about them. Clive Bates is a huge THR advocate from the United Kingdom, and he has a website, clivebates.com, and we're going to cover we're just going to look really quickly here. I'll go over to the right monitor. This is an article that he put out today. Excuse me. Bad science, poor insights, and likely to do harm. Rapid reaction to the Surgeon General's terrible e-cigarette report. And then he's got the video posted here. And it says, warning, the Surgeon General has crossed the boundary between science and propaganda. The Surgeon General's report on e-cigarettes is out. E-cigarette use among youth and young adults, a report by the Surgeon General. It is truly terrible, a heady mix of emotive propaganda and completely warped and one-sided account of the science built on a lack of insight into youth behaviors and no knowledge of the tobacco and nicotine market and its consumers. I don't think it could have been said any better than what he did in that paragraph. He's extracted.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This is where I got most of my knowledge about the Surgeon General's report was from Clive.
Okay.
This is where I went.
So yeah, definitely I'll post the link. Everyone check this out. There's a couple different posts in here about it. But he says, I've extracted the overall conclusions and main chapter conclusions from the report and provided a rapid reaction to each of these. You can check those out for sure. My overall view, anyway, I don't know if I want to spend time reading all of this. What do you guys think? Should I read a few of these, especially for the people who are listening?
It might be worth reading some of the overall view, but I wouldn't go into the details.
Okay. The report is a major failure on the part of the Surgeon General and his ghostwriters at CDC. Looking only at risk to teenagers without looking at benefits to adults has inevitably created a highly one-sided report. Absolutely true. Even with the focus on youth, it fails to recognize that for adolescents, vaping may be a positive route out of smoking, an exit gateway, without considering how young people and adults transition between smoking and vaping. The Surgeon General misses nearly everything that matters and presents a fundamentally flawed report. While the science is detailed in the body of the report, caution and caveat are abandoned in the headlines and marketing material. The report does not put vaping risk in the context with smoking or other risk and plays fast and loose with anti-scientific risk communication. And that's just a couple of points from the overall view. He also has another post on here. I think you can link to it from that one, The Critic's Guide to Bad Vaping Science. It gives you some good talking points if you are an advocate in this in the vaping industry.
That's been around for a while.
This has been this was published December 7th, so I'm not sure. Maybe
whole extra day. Yeah.
Maybe it's been updated. But he's got a lot of good talking points here and questions that you can use to counter, like toxic chemicals have been identified in e-cigarette vapor or e-liquids, and some of those are: did they show potentially harmful exposure? How risky compared to smoking? How risky compared to other risks? Were measurements made in realistic human operating conditions? Stuff like that. So this is a really good talking points list for advocates out there to have a look at and combat some of the propaganda, I guess, based materials being put out by our government. And then this one is 5 questions to put to the U.S. Surgeon General on e-cigarette science. Anyway, he's got... again, a lot of information here that you guys can look through on your own time, but there are some questions. How much has vaping played a role in the recent accelerated decline in the U.S. adult smoking, and how beneficial for health will this be? Very, very solid question, valuable question. How much of the decline in youth smoking is attributable to vaping, and how beneficial for health will this be? Compared to smoking cigarettes, how harmful are e-cigarettes? If nicotine is harmful to the developing brain, where are the smokers with brain damage? On what basis is it possible to claim any material risk to bystanders for secondhand vapor exposure? Again, these are just a few that I'm covering here, and there's a lot more good points that you can make there, but these are absolutely excellent common sense questions by Clive Bates that I think everyone who is a vapor or an advocate for tobacco harm reduction and vaping definitely needs to take a look at.
If you're one of those people that finds yourself out in the smoking area having to converse with smokers on the merits of vaping, that's a must read. That's an absolute must read.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
I
and this
agree.
is, I'm just going to give you an example really quickly here of what I was talking about on some of the media outlets and what they're putting out there. And hopefully you guys can hear this. Maybe you can. I don't know. This is from the Wall Street Journal. E-cigarettes pose major, quote unquote, risks, Surgeon General report warns.
It's a tale of 2 national health authorities. The U.S. Surgeon General issuing a stark warning in a new report,
Nice
E-cigarette
graphic.
use by young people has increased at an alarming rate.
Schmexy.
Many of today's youth who are using e-cigarettes, the report says, could become tomorrow's cigarette smokers. Meanwhile, a report last year from Public Health England, the UK's top national health authority, celebrated e-cigarettes as 95% less harmful to your health than normal cigarettes. The distinction between the two countries illustrates just how nascent this product is and the different ways social and scientific research on e-cigs, which is preliminary at best, should be interpreted. Both countries have around the same percentage per capita of adults who smoke. The US's report is skeptical of the notion that e-cigs should be promoted as a way to help people quit smoking, saying the evidence supporting the effectiveness of e-cigarettes as an aid for quitting conventional cigarettes remains unproven. Across the pond, a different message. E-cigs, when supported by a smoking cessation service, help most smokers to quit tobacco altogether. The two countries split even more dramatically when it comes to the safety of e-cigs. The UK says e-cigs are designed for users to inhale nicotine without most of the harmful effects of smoking because they don't produce tar and carbon monoxide. The US, on the other hand, views e-cig delivered nicotine as a new addictive substance with unknown risk, particularly for young people.
You know what I'm saying?
Enticed by ads like these that make them look cool and sexy. Compared with older adults, the Surgeon General's report says the brain of youth and young adults is more vulnerable to the negative consequences of nicotine exposure. The effects include addiction, priming for use of other addictive substances, reducing impulse control, deficits in attention and cognition, and mood disorders. Both societies urgently want to see smoking rates continue to decline. To the UK, e-cigs present a money and life-saving solution. To the US, they're a threat to the next generation. That's the
So I don't know. Did you guys? Basically, it was a compare and contrast between the U.S.'s policies on electronic cigarettes and vaping, and the U.K.'s policies and information they put out to their public about e-cigarettes and vaping, and the stark contrast in what the two governments are doing to either promote or try to squash vaping.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can see the big picture there. Absolutely. You look at Europe. How many tobacco farmers are there in Europe?
No idea.
I'll give you an idea. Close to zero.
Is it zero, Jay? Is it zero?
Well, yeah, it's pretty damn close to zero. Other than Sweden, again with snus, there isn't much of a tobacco manufacturing or producing market. In the U.S., obviously, that's very different. We've got Virginia, we've got the Carolinas. Huge tobacco manufacturers. They sell tobacco to a large portion of the entire planet. That means political influence. Mm-hmm. Europe does not have that. So Europe is not beholden to them to do political favors. So they can be a little more honest, strangely enough. Why the WHO? Which I don't think we necessarily want to get into tonight. Why the WHO is having such a problem with e-cigs is beyond me. I don't fully understand it. But as far as Europe goes, it's pretty clear that they're being a little more honest than the U.S. And that's what people need to lean on, as we have been. The Royal College of Physicians, we need to lean on that. We need to lean on that study a lot. Cheers.
Any thoughts about that distinction between how the UK is deciding to handle? I'm not going on the EU because they came out with the TBD and stuff, but if we focus strictly on the United Kingdom and it appears to me that they truly have the best interest of the public health in mind there versus what we're doing in the United States. Any thoughts on why that might be? Or
I couldn't even tell you. I mean, the UK still has regulations in place. They just make a little bit more sense, if that makes any sense. They're still implementing some parts of the TPD, so it's not just like, oh, all vapors are welcome in the UK and come manufacture your juice here and we'll just sell 800 ml bottles across the UK. It's not quite like that. Their regulations just make actual sense rather than the seemingly pointless and arbitrary regulations that we get in the United States. And I don't know if that's just a difference in culture, in history. It's big difference. Yeah.
So my vaping place says that Turkey and Greece are actually big tobacco producers. I was not aware that Greece produced tobacco. I obviously, Turkish tobacco. I knew that Turkey made tobacco. I just wasn't aware that they were part of the European Union. Call me stupid.
Greece
Please,
is. Turkey, I don't think that they've been admitted yet because of human rights violations or stuff like that. But they're in Europe.
But I wasn't aware that Greece actually produced tobacco. So that's good to know.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Beyond the who produces the tobacco thing, and I know that has a lot to do with politics, because then you get into the money and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about just the general perception of public health and how they're tending to embrace the real science behind adult smokers, and how we're still over here in the United States, who are supposed to be a world leader and an example for some developing countries, how we can't get past something as small as, let's, again, the argument of let's save the youth, and to hell with everybody else. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and Bill makes a good point in chat and says the one thing that UK also insists on, contrary to North America, electronic cigarettes and e-liquid are not tobacco products.
Right.
Which is huge.
Correct.
There's no reason why they should be tobacco products at all. That's still one of the things that boggles my mind.
I think the main reason why that started to become an issue here in the United States is because, the federal government lost a lawsuit, the Satera case. They lost it, and I think that no one that I've met anyway likes losing. What they did was they said, you know what, you guys got that battle, but fuck you, we're going to win the war.
That's why it's so important, left or right, Republican or Democrat. It's important to have a change in administration every so often. If we were always Democrat or always Republican, things could get really dicey. In pretty short order, a couple of decades of one party rule, you're going to be in trouble. It's important to kind of wipe the slate every once in a while, and that's why I'm so hopeful going forward. Even though I'm not a big Donald Trump supporter, I do think it's very important and very hopeful that we're going to be under a completely different administration, a completely different crew of people running the executive branch and the legislative branch for the next 8 years at least, or 4 years. Sorry, but that's enough time to do some damage.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then you were talking about earlier Reason.com, and they did have an article out discussing the Surgeon General's report. So let's switch over real quick. And again, I'll post the link in the description. By the way, if you are watching, let me pop back over real quick. If you're watching and you haven't hit the like button yet, please make sure you do that before the program ends. And also share the replay once we put it up on the Facebook page. If you're not a part of the Facebook page, make sure you jump over there after we get finished tonight and request to join, and we'll add you in there. So on Reason.com, this is an article by Jacob Solom. It says Surgeon General launches e-cigarette scare campaign that will harm public health. Vivek Murthy's concerns about adolescent vaping is overwrought, and his propaganda is pernicious. There's a good word for you.
Pernicious.
Great words.
Wow.
I love Reason, and I love Jacob Solom's actually my favorite guy over there at Reason.
I'm just going to again read the intro paragraph for everyone listening. You can come back and check the article. A new report from Surgeon General Vivek Murthy repackages familiar alarmism about e-cigarettes, which it depicts as a grave threat to the youth of America, using the same deceptive techniques favored by U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, quote unquote, to protect our nation's young people from being harmed by these products. Murthy recommends policies such as higher taxes, vaping bans, limits on advertising, and possibly flavor restrictions that will undermine public health by making e-cigarettes less appealing to people who currently get their nicotine from conventional cigarettes, a much more dangerous source. So this is a really good article, and you can go on to read the rest of it on your own time. But at the very end of it, I just wanted to go over this really quickly here. He says, There he goes again, calling e-cigarettes a tobacco product, and thereby concealing a crucial question about teenagers who vape. What would they be doing otherwise? Even if we focus on the tiny percentage of non-smoking teenagers who regularly vape nicotine, it is not safe to conclude that they would face lower health risks if e-cigarettes had never been invented. In that case, they might have gotten their nicotine by smoking tobacco, which would hardly represent a victory for public health.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, very well said.
Yeah. It's a difficult argument to make because you're while you're not condoning nicotine use for youth, you are acknowledging that if they're going to use nicotine, it's better that they use it in this product rather than a combustible product. And it's, for some people, it's a really difficult kind of bridge to cross, in the general public, but it's the pragmatic approach. It's the tobacco harm reduction approach. Yes, I would rather my kids don't vape. I would rather my kids don't drink coffee. There are a lot of things that I would rather my kids don't do. I would rather they not climb trees. But you know what? Human existence is wrought with risk, and we have to deal with that. It's part of growth.
The best we can do as parents is teach our children right from wrong and what they should or shouldn't do and hope that they make the best decisions thereafter. That, however, the onus lays on us as parents, not on the government. And I'll go back to Ronald Reagan's speech at the beginning that I played for you, the first few-minute clip. It is our control, we the people's control of the government. We set their course, we tell them how fast to go, and we are the ones who should be steering what they are doing. I don't need them to tell me how to raise my children and what they should or should not be doing. I don't need them to. Thank you very much for your advice, but fuck off. Don't need it.
Period. Period. Amen.
So
I don't have kids, so. But
well,
yeah,
I mean, you draw back on your experiences from growing up.
You can take a couple of mine for
you started. You started smoking. How old were you, Nick?
However old you are in the 7th grade, 12 or
yeah. So say around 11,
12
12 years old, you started smoking cigarettes.
Sure.
Do you think did at any point during your did your parents smoke?
No, never when I was alive. My mom smoked, years in college before I was even a thought.
Did they tell you about in college?
Did they tell you about the dangers? Did they tell you about the dangers of smoking? Did they tell you not to smoke? Do you ever remember hearing growing up, smoking is bad, you shouldn't do it?
Not that I can really ever recall, no. My grandmother smoked. I have memories of her smoking while I was alive, but I never even thought about cigarettes or smoking up into the 7th grade when I saw one of my friends smoking, and I instantly just wanted to do it. Before that, I had no idea that it was a thing. I didn't know it existed. Did you have an idea,
though, because of societal influences? I'm trying to get to a point here that you knew that it was something that you shouldn't be doing as a 12-year-old, but you did it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew I shouldn't have been doing it. In fact, when I first saw, I remember very vividly my buddy Chris lighting up a cigarette. I just felt the most panic that I've ever felt, like, I'm going to be in so much trouble right now for some reason, and I don't know why. I haven't even done anything. But, I wanted to hang out with my friends. My story is really boring. It's a really typical peer pressure situation. All my friends started smoking in middle school, and I wanted to be like my friends, and I forced myself to start smoking. And it was a horrible experience, but I did it.
Yeah, but eventually it became something that you liked doing, or you wouldn't continue to do it well into your, early 30s?
Yeah. I mean,
so,
yeah.
I think did you hide it from your parents, or were you open with them?
No. I mean, they had to have known. They had to have known, but I felt like I was hiding it really well.
Right. Anyway, I just think that that's a job that should be left up to parents and their decision on how to raise their children. Yeah. And I don't think that it's anything that the government needs to be worried about. So if we take out the youth equation from it, and then essentially this government report means absolute bupkis, nothing at all. Because It has no positive impact on the public health of adult smokers. None at all. all it does is go towards hurting the cause of people who are trying to get rid of a habit that they know is going to kill them. That's all that this report does. It damages public perception of vaping, in my opinion. Maybe not as much as what you guys don't seem to think it's going to do that much, but I think that it damages the public opinion of vaping. I think it's going to prevent smokers from coming over and trying vapor products. And I think the whole thing is shitty.
Don't get me wrong. When I say that this one report isn't going to do that much damage, I mean just that. This one report isn't going to do much damage. The problem comes when if we have the same issues going through a brand new administration. That's when the problems come. It's about the constant barrage. And it could easily set us back 50 years. It could be 50 years in the future before people start to realize, oh, vaping is okay. The government's been lying to us, just like they did with, so many other things. I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I just think I think you're looking at this one battle when ultimately I think the war is still in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do absolutely as well. I just think that the negative public perception by this, and everything in today's society has a 24 to 48 hour lifespan. It'll hit the major news circuits and then probably 2 or 3
and then it's going to disappear just
but
like every other
what
story.
I'm saying is the lasting impression of it. Is someone's going to say, I think I remember the Surgeon General saying e-cigs were bad. I'm telling you, I just think that it's going to have. Because it's not just like Joe Schmo from the street said, vaping is bad for teenagers.
I think the fight that we have on the FDA front is far more important. Whether it's legislative or judicial, I think that's a far more important fight because this, the Surgeon General is strictly a PR company.
You think that the judge who's deciding the Nicopura right to be smoke-free lawsuit doesn't watch the news? You think that even though she's supposed to be impartial, it's not going to affect her opinion?
Well, do you think that the lawyers on our side are not digesting that study right now?
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
And can't rebuff any questions that the judge will have?
No, they've had their oral arguments.
If they're worth their salt, they're going to do exactly that.
They've had
and
their
they're
oral
not going to
arguments,
have much of a hard time doing it.
The oral arguments are over. She's in the deciding period. There's nothing more that they're going to say when she comes out with.
Well, maybe that's why the report came out when it did.
Right. I'm again another question for you. Do you think that it's you think it's just happenstance? No, I mean I don't think so.
Again, death throes.
Right. They're grasping at straws. What can we possibly fit in? What can we do? What damage can we do? How can we further our cause before we're done?
Again, most of the population right now gets their news from social media, and as long as we keep pimping out, anti-Surgeon General stories, for the next few days,
hopefully that'll stick. But
hopefully it'll stick, and I think it could end up being a net positive. It could.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if people read, reports like the one that was on Reason and go check out CliveBates.com and see what he has to say about it. And maybe share those articles as well as getting this other bullshit out there. All right. Any closing thoughts on it? The hour went by really quickly here, so we're approaching 9. Any closing thoughts on that? We'll let. We're going to take about 5 minutes and let Nick tell us about what his experience with his ECC. But is there anyone with any questions or comments in the chat before we wrap that up?
You're going to make me read shit.
One thing I wanted to say was I bought the domain today, firethegeneral.com. And what it does is it redirects to the Americans for Tax Reform page urging Donald Trump to fire the Surgeon General. I just thought it would be an easier way to do it, to get people to that page. You can go to firethegeneral.com. Share it around, spread it around. I'm going to start posting it on social media tomorrow. But you can go to firethegeneral.com and be taken right to the Americans for Tax Reform page to get to try to get the Surgeon General fired. I think we could get a lot of people to fill that out too. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm not a huge advocate of filling out petitions, but if something that Greg Conley and Paul Blair are behind, then I would say it's worth your time to go do that.
And at this early stage, I could totally see Donald Trump actually paying attention to petitions. I
think during the transition, phase,
that's a Twitter thing. That's like a Twitter bomb waiting to happen.
Yeah, he loves his Twitter, so you never know. It could help. It could be cool. It could get more people to that site to,
I've already filled
to
it
do
out today and
something.
submitted it. So yeah, we'll put a link for that,
There you go.
firethegeneral.com, in the description as well. So we're gonna wrap that up.
Firethegeneral.com.
Nick, tell us about ECC. How was your experience? Let's end on a positive note today.
It was really, really great. I was shocked. I went in, I was preparing myself to be really disappointed, and I hope nobody from ECC is watching this, but I was prepared to be really disappointed. Because of California, we can't vape indoors anymore. And when I heard that ECC was happening, I thought for sure it was going to be in Las Vegas, but they're keeping ECC in California. And I thought that's going to be really bizarre. You know, what are they going to do? They had it at the Santa Anita infield, so I was expecting like tents on dirt. I guess that's kind of what I was expecting, but it's actually a really nice like fairground facility. Like there was concrete and some grass and landscaping, and there were really big booths that, you know, really big tents that were open that had multiple vendors in them, and then smaller vendors each had their own little tent like in a row, and it had a really different vibe and feel to it. It felt much more like a festival, like a music festival or something like that. It was really great being outdoors at a vape event. I said this at least 1,000 times on YouTube, but it felt really great being outdoors at a vape event and not being like in a room with everybody else's vapor and then like music that you can't escape from. There's just no escape from it. You could walk 5 feet to a different vendor, and the one booth that had a DJ, they were just gone out of your reality. And it was the weather in Southern California in December is beautiful. The days are really mild and the nights are cool, and they went on into the night after the sun went down, and everyone had lights, and you were just walking around and outside, and really great vendors, really great people. Overall, I think it was a huge success. The first day, the Friday, the B2B day, was to be expected. It was a little bit slower, but both of the public days, Saturday and Sunday, were really packed. I mean, the vapors came out for this event, which is something I haven't seen, you know, on that scale all year.
Yeah.
I mean, all year.
And they were charging an admission fee as well, right? And parking. So people still came, parking. And that's. How would you say that it was compared to maybe the previous years ECCs that you've been to? Would you say it was noticeably smaller, or was it about the same?
I think it was about the same turnout. The event itself was a little bit smaller because the area that they had it in was a little bit smaller. But when I say it was a little bit smaller, that doesn't mean much because it was still gigantic. Where we were over by the DHD booth was on one side of the Santa Anita infield, and I tried one day to get over to RigMod, which was on the farthest opposite side that I could, and it took me forever. Not just because I was stopping and talking to people, because it was really that far away. Yeah. They packed a lot of vendors into this really large area. It was really good. And yeah, they charged a fee to get in. It was $15 to park each day, but vapors still came out to it. It was kind of amazing how many vapors were there. I was pleasantly surprised because, like I was saying, all events, I mean, no fault of the event, and I'm not trying to rag on you or certainly a VCC or anything like that. I understand. Dallas Vape Showcase was a ghost town. A lot of events I've been to have been kind of attended, but not really packed like they used to be. ECC felt like I was in a time machine. It felt like early 2015 vape event. That's cool. It was full and packed, and people were excited. Vendors were stoked. Everybody, at least in my squad, had a really good time. It was, I would say, a really successful event. And I want all vape events to be outdoors from now on, as long as it's not like, you know, I don't know, Florida in August or something like that.
Florida in March is pretty nice time
I'm
of
with
year.
that. I'm with that. I love outdoor vape events.
Outdoor vape events are great.
I absolutely love them.
And they had a bunch of food trucks come in every day, and you could go over to all these great food trucks and have really good food. And it wasn't like you had more choice than, you know, nachos
I'm actually
The horrible shit you eat at vape events.
I'm glad to hear that they had a really successful event, and I hope that it's a shift in mentality for the industry to get back on track with good conventions. Not every convention that came out the last 2 years, but good events. There are some good events out there that happen across, and I hope that vapors start coming back again to the events. I really do.
I hope so too.
I hope vapors of my age start coming back out to events.
Well, I
miss
Jay.
adults.
I like anyone, and I like meeting everyone there. The range for me is one of the best things about going to the events and meeting people from 18 to 70. I think it's pretty awesome to meet all the people that do come out to the events, and I'm glad to hear that ECC had a good event, and I hope that it has a trickle down effect to all the other events that are decent in the community throughout the year. So
absolutely.
We haven't thought about doing an outdoor event for VCC. Actually, I did check on doing one on Clearwater Beach once, but it's very unlikely that you're going to get a permit to do that, according to the city of Clearwater. But it may be a possibility at some point in the future. I would like to give it a shot. We do.
I have an e-liquid named Clearwater. So if you do an event,
Clearwater Beach, did you?
Clearwater Juice came out in 2010.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, Clearwater came out in the 1800s, so suck that. I'm just kidding.
I wasn't competing with the township.
But I think it's good. I think it's a positive thing for the industry, and hopefully vendors get some confidence back in the events. And I think it's great. I'm glad you had a good time. And,
really good time.
Maybe we can get that same enthusiasm carried forward to the Tampa event in March. It's not going to be outdoors, but there is an outdoors area there. I mean, it's a huge fairgrounds, for crying out loud, the Florida State Fairgrounds. But maybe we can
get a big fan or something to simulate like.
No, Florida in March is about the same probably as there now. Maybe a little less cool. I don't think it's quite as cool at night, but the weather in Florida in March is absolutely perfect. So.
Yeah. Yes, it is. If I have time to take off of work, I will try to make it down.
Very cool. I know Nick's may or may not. I think he's...
Yeah, it's still kind of up in the air, only because April is so bananas for me traveling-wise that like the end of March leading into the beginning of April is not...
If you guys want to see Nick in Tampa for VCCT 17, leave a comment down below. Just put X1 Grim Green. Let's see if we can, we'll see what we can do with the turnout. We definitely want to have a successful event. I'm very glad ECC had a great event. And
if you're really dying to see me at this event, just go ahead and hum and haw in your mom's basement. I'll get the message.
And on that note, all right. So the Tampa event is March 25th and 26th. Rob, he's asking in comments, March 25th and 26th, 2017 at the Florida State Fairgrounds. And if you know of any vendors who are interested, please tag them in the comments or let me know. Send me an email, admin@vapingcc.com. We're really glad to hear ECC had a great event. And any closing thoughts, Jay, before we go? We're a little bit over, but it's cool.
No, I mean, it's been a lot of negative tonight, and I've tried to keep an upbeat, positive note. And the next few months are going to be very telling. Chin up. Keep up the good fight. And when you see negative stories out there, go ahead on social media and post the positive ones. Post the contradictions to those negative stories, because there are plenty and they are factually based. So do not feel guilty about posting them. Do it. Live it.
Absolutely. Nick, any closing thoughts?
Firethegeneral.com. Everybody go there. Spread it around. It's so easy to remember. Firethegeneral.com. I'm going to post it all over social media, hopefully tomorrow, and get a lot of people over there.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate everyone turning out tonight to watch live and contribute in the chat. We really appreciate you guys doing that. Don't forget to smash that like button down there, as someone reminded us in chat. Thank you for that.
Zero dislikes.
I'll give it time. Someone will dislike
I'll change that. I'll dislike it.
Now that I said that,
we'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. with another episode of VCC Live. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. Join the page. We have updates on there on the show that you can share and get other people involved in the live event. That happens every Thursday at 8 p.m. right here at youtube.com/vapingcc. We'll see you all next week. Remember, you don't have to do everything. You do have to do something. Get involved. And now we'll see if it'll play the outro for us, because last week it didn't. It was delayed response.
Keep saying things.
Yeah, keep talking.